The idea, insight, or secret you need for massive impact is just moments away. It's time to claim your career crown. The podcast where business owners and entrepreneurs share the keys to the kingdom to help you open the vault to your greater success.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petite to Queen's Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I am your host, Lynn, and today I'm joined by this amazing guest, Kathy Basel. And today we're going to be talking about the AI edge, how to use ChatGPT to power up your purpose and profit. You know, AI is not an easy button. Using AI correctly and strategically is crucial for your business. And if you get a ton of value out of this episode, I would love to invite you to subscribe because it costs nothing to subscribe. Now, I'm going to tell you about Kathy. Here she is. She's already giggling. So Kathy is the AI whisperer. She combines 20 years of marketing expertise with intuitive coaching and healing to guide solopreneurs to master AI-driven messaging and attract their ideal clients. Kathy is passionate about empowering coaches, healers, and change makers to elevate their marketing and streamline messaging, freeing time to do what they love, transform lives. A sought-after speaker, Kathy has shared stages with luminaries like Jack Canfield, focusing on the power of owning your voice to make a meaningful impact and income. Kathy, I am so excited to see you again, and I'm thrilled to have you on the show.
Me too. I have to say, I love podcasts, but I've been looking forward to this one because you and I are just so simpatico when it comes to this, and we're wired a lot alike. You know, we're the joy. If business should be about joy, and if we're not experiencing joy, there's ebbs and flows with that. But if we're not, that should be a sign. So how do we get back to the core of who we are and tap into that passion again? So that's one of the things I love most about you, Lynn.
Well, thank you, Kathy. That's wonderful. And I know that we absolutely have connected so well. You gave us a bunch of information in the brief bio for your backstory, but it isn't very deep. So I'd like to go a little deeper and have you share with us what inspired you to get started down the path you're on right now.
Yeah, so I was doing marketing I guess it's a good story because I've been self-employed for 20 some odd years. But we'll leave it at 20 because I'm kind of in denial yet about the aging thing. But so marketing, and I love messaging. I love connecting heart to heart with one another. That's, some of my core values are about connection and upliftment and these kinds of things. So anything that we can do to help make someone feel special. So that's the kind of thing I was doing. I was doing both event, like marketing kind of things, like creating events to make people feel special and make things memorable so that you stand out, but also to do messaging so that we're effectively communicating not just what we are, but how we're different and how we're that special fit for that particular person. But I had an amazing mom, Shirley, and she was kind of like the pinup girl for living agelessly and full of vitality. And one day she had a clean bill of health one week, and the following week on my birthday, like 20 some odd years ago, she had a stroke and lost use of the left side of her body. Went into the medical world, and I realized that it's not always the best place to go if you want to become whole. Physically they were doing all they could from that standpoint, but as I watched slowly as her body was diminishing and dying, essentially, what I recognized is that it was her soul that was dying, and nobody was addressing the underlying cause of why it is that we oftentimes know what to do, but we don't do it. So I was called, we have these little callings in life. So that was a calling on my life and my heart to make a shift and go into holistic healing myself. And I, again, just loved going deep into what's the cause? Oftentimes we know what we need to do. We know how to eat right, the stuff we should be avoiding and move a little bit more, right? But what else goes into creating a life that's full of vitality and this wholeness of who we are. And so, yeah, then I started doing coaching myself and ran into the next challenge, which is how do you find clients? It's like, how do you find clients that are ready for the thing that you do? There's lots of health coaches out there, right? So even with my own background in marketing, it was hard. And, you go to networkings. I love connecting and talking with people and learning about them. And the dreaded question would come, well, what do you do? And so I was doing like energy work and the woo-woo stuff, like all this juicy stuff to release the emotional underpinnings of what holds us back. And so it was hard to articulate what that was in a way that I thought would be received, that people would lean in and want to know more. So yeah, over time I was getting better, but then along came ChatGPT, the buzz, and I'm like, no, not for me, right? Because I'm an energy person, I want it to articulate my authenticity and my unique essence and all these woo-woo things. And the hype just kept coming in. So finally last spring, I dropped my own messaging in and using, I know what goes into good copywriting, good marketing, messaging. When I dropped my stuff in there and saw what came out, it was definitely a eureka moment of this is a tool that I can help other coaches and healers, and I say the change makers of the world, to get their message out in a bigger way, because that's really what I want. I want everybody to understand, there's the people that I'm drawn to work with are those ones that have a big message, and it's time. The world needs the healing that these kinds of people bring.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so funny because when you said that, my mother's name is Shirley.
Oh no, my middle name's Lynn.
Well, my middle name is not Kathy, so I
Okay.
we broke the chain there. But that's just an amazing, that journey and where you are now. And because you've been there and done that type of work, and now you're able to help and serve others who are struggling in that same way, you really understand what that looks like. So
Yeah.
getting into the topic of AI and of course ChatGPT, and there are other versions or other type of AI tools.
Mhm.
But how do you use AI and ChatGPT to set you up for these type of seamless sales conversations?
Yeah. And so I like to say the very first thing is, you probably in good marketing heard the term USP. Your unique selling proposition is what the technical thing means. But I believe it really starts with us going deep on their purpose. What was the calling that got you into doing what you do? Why are you called to serve these exact people? So drawing from my own story, my message is really to help the other coaches and the healers of the world, because I wanted that kind of help for my mom that she didn't get. And so there is a special drive on my life, calling on my life for that. And like you said, because I was, I geek out on neuroscience and plasticity, neuroplasticity and energy work and stuff like that. I really understand deeply the struggles that those kinds of coaches are having in articulating their message. So the very first thing, rather than unique selling proposition, before you dive into the selling part, and this is why I love this conversation, because you and I are so aligned in this way, I call it your unique soul power. So what is unique about you that puts you head and shoulders above somebody else? I like to weave in story with this, because the work that we do for someone is to create a transition in their lives. It's a deeply personal interaction that we're coming with. So we really need to go deep first on who you are, and then understand who they are. So like one of the gals I was working with, Celeste, is a trademark attorney. And so she was just struggling on what to write. She wanted to start publishing more and things like that. And she always came to the white page and kind of froze up. But when we started diving deeper about, like, why did you get into this, such a specialty in the field of law? What happened is that her mother was an artist, and time and again, her unique work was basically taken and kind of duplicated. And so she went into intellectual property protection is her specialty now. And it's like, wow, if you hear that story about Celeste and you're that exact kind of person, an artist that's afraid of your, this is your livelihood, this is your life, your life's work. When you hear that person, that's exactly what they do, you're not a commodity anymore. Now you're kind of like an answer to someone's prayer, right? They've been afraid to get their work out into the world because they're afraid that it's going to be taken. And so that's the level of depth, I think, when we understand how our backstory has brought us to this moment now, to help us define a couple of things, both what your gift is, your genius, right? We want to bring our genius to the world, but who are those people? I call it the red velvet rope people. Like if you're having a special party, who's the VIPs that are going to get inside? For me, it's the coaches and healers. For Celeste, it's the artists of the world. So when we get clear on why we're called to that specific person, the more you dial in that juiciness before you start prompting chat. And again, like you said, there's so many different platforms. There's going to be new ones popping out all the time. I suggest just picking one of the tools and go deep with it. Get to know it, because ultimately what we want to do is train it to understand who you are.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. It sounds like you have a real thought out, very systemized process to get there. And I know you've described it, but is that, something that how do you set that up in ChatGPT? What's the process you use with your clients to bring this information forward? What does that look like?
Yeah, so part of that, it actually starts with the little self-reflection. So we've got some questions that helps them to just remember, connect some of the dots. It's like, that you're doing this thing, but maybe you forgot that the real driver, the real impetus, for me to connect again to my mom's story of like, dang, this becomes more of like a vision statement for me. So my vision statement is about, I believe it's time for the coaches, healers, and change makers of the world to step up and be fully visible so that they make the good money and the income that they're here to make. And so part of that was because of the story. Like when I was doing energy work and coaching, I saw so many other coaches and healers struggling. And so when you get to that point that it becomes a mission that's bigger than you, all of a sudden you've got extra momentum that goes into that. So some of it's just good old journaling and kind of the river of life exercise where you kind of plot out some of that stuff and it helps you connect the dots. But then with ChatGPT or whichever one you're using, ChatGPT, with my marketing background, I can direct you through some simple prompts, and super jazzed to be able to share that with your audience today. But I know you do the same kind of things with your clients when you start, is you go into an exhaustive exploration of who their ideal client is. And by that, we want to connect heart to heart. And this is who we are. I think, in sales or in marketing, people have such resistance about that because they don't want to feel like they're pushy or the salesy or la la la, whatever it is, the fear of rejection, these other fears we have about being visible. But when we sink into our hearts, and I think that's part of the brilliance of AI, is that it doesn't get stuck in its head as it's trying to craft the perfect messaging. You can direct it on, now help us, there's demographics and it'll tell you who your ideal client is. Oh, she likes yoga and she lives in suburbia of Chicago and she's got 1.5 kids. But then you can go into some of the psychographic stuff, the psychographics being entering the psyche of your client, understanding, I call it your love language. But getting inside the conversation that they're having in their head. What are their biggest challenge, their obstacles? And it's amazing the kinds of questions that you can ask and the clarity you can get to. What have they tried that didn't work? What are they saying to themselves now? What's the narrative they're telling themselves that is keeping them from moving forward? And so you can get really granular on what that problem is. And the more you speak their language, is it J. Abrahams, the copywriting expert, says that if you are able to articulate someone's problem better than they can themselves, they automatically credit you with the ability to solve their problem as well. So what if we could get to that point? And once they've read your stuff, so I'm marketing your sales. They coalesce, but marketing I think of as sending the message out. It's kind of like the awareness, but we want to be like the beacon and sending a message that's got a certain resonance. We don't want all the clients, and I think that's another thing in the social media world, that you've got this global audience. It's like, but how many people do you really want to work with? How many, who do you, I'd rather work with a small group of clients that really energize and inspire me than have a ton of people. So I want to get granular, come down, make it simple for you. Who is it that you're called to work with? And then if you're messaging out with a message that's so specific, like dialed in on their values, their beliefs, what do they need to believe in order to be on the other side of the problem that they're struggling with? How long have they been struggling? How is it affecting their marriage and their other life? Because it's not a business problem. It's a business and a personal problem. And now it's a family problem. And it's, now I'm not leaving the house because, whatever. But yeah, it's fascinating, really fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And you're right. It's so much more than just like a specific problem at work. I mean, it morphs into all these other things because it's almost becomes like this weight that you're carrying, on your back or around your neck. But, when you're talking about AI, I mean, this is something that I see so often that people use AI in what I would call a very shallow way, like it's an easy button, and
Yeah.
they don't know the how to use it. And to me, this is like a huge challenge that many people don't even recognize that they have, that they're not using AI effectively and strategically. So why do you think it is such a challenge for so many?
Well, part of it is that, we get called into doing certain type of work, and it's hard being an entrepreneur. There's lots of different hats for us to wear. And chances are they didn't come into their business as a marketer or a salesperson or a copywriter. And so this is kind of like a whole new set of tools. So what I would invite people to do is lean in and be curious. So the very first building block is to get that clear understanding of your clients. But then you need to teach ChatGPT or whichever language model you're using who the heck you are. So that goes back to that first step of my unique soul power. So I want to communicate that. And from that messaging, that goes everywhere. That's on my website, on my blogs. It becomes infused in everything that we do. But the way you begin to teach ChatGPT how to speak like you've got a treasure trove of information already. So what's cool is it's evolving. You can give it your website and have it look for the tone and tell you the values and tell you the unique soul selling proposition. You can the other things you can do is have it create different models of the way you speak. I am a coach, so I like to use lots of questions to engage the reader, and the better you get at instructing your language model, the better output that you get. And so I say we want to front load, spend a lot of time getting deep with. I keep thinking of Caesar Milan of training the dogs. It's usually not the dog that's having the problem. It's usually a person that needs the coaching, right? So it's kind of the same way. We want to take a little bit of extra time to get clear on who you are, get clear on who that client is, and then teach ChatGPT how to create content that sounds like you. And we want, ideally, if you can get it to the point where it's 80% of the way, like sounding like you, because energy is everything. And never, ever, 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 ever take something and copy and paste it into anything. It's almost gotten to the other point. There's an adage that content is king. Well, now with this kind of stuff, there's going to be a tsunami of content out there. What we want to do is create connection. And so energy that your words, your mood, your joy, your, fear, whatever it is that you're going to, that needs to be infused into what's being shared. And so you can teach ChatGPT There's customized instructions you can create that you tell it who you are. So it doesn't, you don't need to go back every time you have a new conversation and start from scratch. You can teach it your tone. So you can take samples of writing, or what I encourage people to do too is we write one way, we also speak a different way. So you want to take like transcripts from like your podcast. You can go into YouTube, and YouTube automatically creates transcripts. If you didn't know that, dive in. There's you got a treasure trove of content to share because you're speaking in a certain way. There's a certain syntax and cadence that you use when we're speaking that we don't use in writing, and you can create different profiles for different types of things that you're writing. But go and have fun and have it analyze. You can tell ChatGPT, analyze this writing and tell me the tone. And so, a lot of times I'm conversational, or I like to say, pretend like I'm sitting across and having tea with Lynn. What does that look like and sound like? I'm very friendly. I ask lots of questions. I was working with a gal, and she's very expressive. She sells glasses, very custom glasses. So it's all about creative expression. So as we were getting good but not great output, and so we kept at it, digging, like, what's missing. And the adjectives we came up with were wildly creative. So her stuff is wildly creative. And the other thing is that she's got this kind of, and it came up with the word pithy as a sense of humor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, who would have thought of the word pithy? But once we got that dialed in, man, it started nailing her sense of humor, her perspective in life. Like, and that's what you want to do, is pretend like you're having this deep conversation. Like, what's your perspective of life? Like, is every day like magic, or, or are you, there's all kinds of different people. Or another thing I like to share. So, say for health coaches, people in the health world, think of your Myers-Briggs type. So we've got different types of personalities, or color codes would be another one. Different types of health coaches will write differently. So there's somebody like a Chris Carr, who is somebody who's like touchy-feely. She's blue, and she's, and she moved, she had cancer, and now she lives on a farm, and she's got goats, and, she does green smoothies. And then there's Mel Robbins, and she's the, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 tail, red personality. That's all about the outcome. All right, enough of that, procrastination, we're going to get it done kind of a thing. Completely different writing styles. So you can also instruct your ChatGPT both on your Myers-Briggs or personality types, or whatever you want to put into there. Or you can say, hey, I'm like Mel Robbins, I'm direct. Or maybe this piece is like Mel Robbins. Maybe there's other times that you want to be more like Brene Brown-ish. Sometimes I'll be working with something that's not quite getting to the voice I want. And so I'll sit and think, I'm like, okay, who writes like that? It's like, oh, Tim Ferriss. Boom. And you'd be surprised how quickly it can shift. But you want to hone your skill at instructing your device, your AI, so that it's as effective as possible, because this can be, I'm telling you, just revolutionary because we've got lots of hats we're wearing. This can cut your production time down by at least 50%. I say 75%, but it can be such a great jump starter. But even more important, we want to go deeper in the connection, and then wider in our consistency, because that's the other big challenge. It's hard to be consistent, because as a solopreneur, the good news is you got clients one day, then you not got clients. So you got time for marketing one day and maybe not the next, right? And so consistency builds your sense of authority, because you're consistently showing up, and trust. So know, like, trust. I say that's a little old. Now we got to build in that want to work with you factor. So we want to capture your personality and your zest.
Yeah. I mean, that was amazing. And I agree that there's that. Someone yesterday called it pixie dust, that I call it the special elixir that we each have. So when someone is starting to look and use ChatGPT, and or a different AI tool, what typically do you encounter that holds people back from diving in?
Yeah, the very first thing is fear. And especially, for the healers, the pixie dust people of the world, we're afraid that it's not going to be able to capture that unique essence. So I say just enter it with a curiosity. Lean in, start playing with it, get better and better and better. So the first thing is just fear. Some people fear about it, AI, because now our information's out there and other people are going to steal our stuff. But your stuff's out there. They're going to find it anyways. Like I always say, just out create it rather than going into protect mode. Just share it with love out to the world and recognize that the right people who are ready to work with you will find you because it's out there. So there's definitely going to downsides to AI, and you can choose to focus in on that, or you can get that AI edge and dive in, lean in with curiosity, and really get good at doing it. But
That's the big one, huh? Well, and it's true because I write blog articles. I'm on podcasts all the time. I'm on the stage. So all of that is what AI is actually searching that's already out there.
yeah,
And it's actually looking at what is, and it's, gathering that up. So it's important that you recognize that you're already putting that out there. And is there an easier, better way that you can leverage your time and your resources? So, if someone's saying, okay, this is like, I'm interested, but where do I start? So, what should our listeners do next about embracing AI and the edge it brings to sales?
well, they're really smart for listening for your podcast. And then hopefully they'll get the prompts and the giveaway that I've got for your audience, because it's got the psychographic prompts that are in there. And then the other thing it's got is 5 different types of content, because it's not enough to create content. One of the problems in messaging that we have is that we like to give or teach. We teach a lot, but what makes people buy? People have to understand, remember that they've got the problem. They have a certain way of thinking or coping, that there needs to be a shift in what they're thinking. And so in the I call it the Authentic AI Content Planner, I've got 5 different types of posts along with the prompts that will help you to, I mean, yes, we want to inspire, but we want to educate. We want to give them a new perspective. What is it that they don't know right now? What is the aha moment that might help get them out of that little stuck space that they are, so that they can find that answer? And ultimately, we want to engage. I think a lot of people will get discouraged because they've tried social media. They're not getting the engagement that they want. So then they stop, and then it's like a downward cycle. It's no. Let's find ways that we're engaging, but you've got ways to connect, because now their values, the books they're reading, the prompts that I'm giving you will help you create those connections. Find out that your mom's name is Shirley, like how can we, like my people, I read Abraham Hicks, I follow them. So, it's a little different, but when I put that out there, the people who also read that, they're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. So they're going to lean into me. So I've got prompts that are going to help you find those connection points. And then, so inspire. And then ultimately, how do you convert them? How do you invite them in? And you know this too, that a rookie mistake and as we go into entrepreneurship is that we forget to ask people to come work with us. So how can you have fun, and how can you create different ways of inviting them into your world? So there's 5 different types of prompts that are in that giveaway, the Authentic AI Content Planner.
All right. Well, that sounds amazing. And you definitely have to ask, because if you don't ask, you won't get. So, Kathy, as we round up here, what is there anything that you wish that I had asked you today that I have not?
I think you did a fabulous job, but I don't know. I think I'd just like to close with one of my favorite quotes, which is Maya Angelou. And she said, people may forget what you said or what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that's, remember, what we are after. This heart to heart, beautiful connection. I want you to feel passionate about your business, and I want you to feel passionate about the people that you're serving, and inspired and uplifted because you're doing great work with great people for wonderful pay.
Yeah, that is absolutely one of my favorite quotes, and I've had it pinned on my wall for decades. I
Me too.
actually wrote it out and I did some design around it, and it's just like it's it's so true. So, Kathy, thank you so much for sharing about the AI Edge, how to use ChatGPT to power up your purpose and profit. I know that our listeners are going to want to know more about you and definitely where they can get that planner. So, what have you got for us?
Awesomeness. So you can hop right over to my website, kathybasel.com. The planner will be midway down that page, or I think you got the link that they can pop directly over there. But check out my website too, and you'll see you'll see the way I've laid out my website. And the cool thing is you could create a website just like that too by having ChatGPT analyze a website that you like and say, that's what it's so great at, analyzing stuff. It can tell you the breakout of why I love this site so much and tell you exactly what the elements are so that you can put that on your website too. But yeah, kathybasel.com. Come on by.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will be sure to provide the short link for the Authentic AI Content Planner down below so that Kathy is just a click away. So that will take you over to her website into the planner. And thank you, Kathy, so much. This has been such a great discussion. And thank you to all of our listeners who tuned in. This is the type of information that you need. And especially with all the rapidly changing things that go on in our world. And here we are, AI is here to stay. So let's learn how to use it and how to use it effectively and strategically. Kathy, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure for sure.
What was your biggest takeaway from this episode? I would love to hear about it. It's important to share the things you love. If you loved this episode, a 5-star review really helps keep the podcast coming to you regularly. Also, if you want to get more sales strategies to grow your business, make sure you subscribe right now. If you want to get results even faster, I invite you to download my sales strategy checklist at petitetoqueen.com/checklist. This has been Lynn Whitbeck, host of Claim Your Career Crown. I'll see you next time.